Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Not much, man.
And we have Steve Bowers here today, man. How are you doing?
Very well, very well.
Glad to have you on. We've been talking Star Wars to kick things off, and it's been fun. It turns out I actually know more about Star Wars than Joe, is what we...
Well, okay, let's just pump the brakes right there.
Is that...
He's seen season 2 of Mandalorian, and I haven't because I can't, because it's blocked here. But let's not go into... I read books of Star Wars just recently just to fill the gap.
Either way.
You're more up to date. Let's put it
Yeah, he's more up to date in the current, climate.
Hey, I'll take it because I'm normally really bad at that stuff. Well,
that's
Steve,
true. Let's
get into you, man. So who are you, what you do, how you train, and where you're from?
So I live in suburban Philadelphia. I normally have been training. Well, we recently moved to a new house. I had been training in my shed. I've recently moved to a house with a garage, so now I have a true garage gym. My profession is I'm a lawyer, but I also own a martial arts studio, and that's the primary driver of my need for fitness is continued training there. So that's sort of what drives what I try to do physically. Is that I'm an older guy. I'm 48, so I'm trying to make sure that I can stay on the mat as long as possible.
That's awesome, man. So law and martial arts, how did that happen?
I actually started in law school. So when I was in law school in Boston, and I was in the weight room there, and a little guy named Matt happened to be walking past, and I had wrestled in college. I had done judo in college, and he was wearing a Boston Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu t-shirt, and I sort of grabbed him by the arm and said, "Hey, do you guys practice?" And he said, "Yeah, we've got to practice in about an hour upstairs." And I went upstairs, and this little dude beat me up like I've never before. And I was like, "Okay, I'm doing this forever." And that was 23 years ago. So it stuck.
Yeah. It's always impressive, man. I did they really just called it combatives in the military, but it's straight up jiu-jitsu from the stuff that they're teaching, and the people who would just kick my butt every single time we would get into it was just like, yeah, this is impressive. And most of the time I'd get choked out and I didn't even see it coming. So yeah, it's fun stuff. Cool, man. So you mentioned going from a shed to garage gym. What is your setup right now?
So I could probably take you there. But it's my garage. It's an attached garage, big, roll up door. I have a 10x10 Resolate wrestling mat on the floor. Got a rower, a pull-up bar, which I got to buy a hammer drill to bolt to the wall. About 400 pounds of free weights and a whole assortment of kettlebells.
That's really good. That's good. It's a good setup, man. And was this what you had in the shed, or was the shed a little bit different?
This was mostly what I had in the shed. The shed was a little bit easier. I was actually kind of disappointed when we got the garage because for about 15 years, I've had this one bit of 1-inch black pipe that I had hung from the ceiling in my basement, and then I hung from the ceiling in the shed, and that was my pull-up bar. And I constructed things around it. Like I put the pull-up bar there, and then I hung 2 lengths of chain from it with 2 smaller pieces of 1-inch pipe. And that was my rings for dips. I was really proud of this setup because it was completely just looked like it was not designed for what it did. But it did last me for 15 years. And when I get to the garage, I look up at the ceiling and I'm like, okay, so there's a drop ceiling there. I can probably cut a hole in the ceiling run some wood up there, bolt that to the wood, and I can put the pipe through it, and I can have the same exact setup. And I cut through the ceiling, and fiberglass insulation just falls down on my face. And I'm like, all right, this might not work as well as I. So then I had to buy a more professional looking pull-up bar. I still have the 1-inch pipe hidden underneath my rower, but so it was a little bit different. But other than that, the setup was the same.
That's awesome. And similar for me, I had this 1-inch pipe. So my very first rack in the garage gym was just wooden DIY, and so I put the pipe in there, and it was a threaded pipe. And then I was doing pull-ups on it, and one side of the pull-up bar, the thread broke. And so luckily I didn't get hurt because one side held on. It was just like an awkward break. But then I ended up using that. I put like straps into my attic and started using it for a pull-up bar that way. That was my pull-up bar for a very long time. And I still have the bar I'm just going to keep it. I don't know.
Just nostalgia. Yep.
Yeah. So I have a similar bar that I keep around that might be good at, I don't know, hitting coyotes with if they get too close or something like that. But cool, man. So we kind of know the reason behind you wanting to maintain your fitness, being martial arts, but why specifically a garage gym?
I find it much easier it's interesting. And this is all psychological analysis of myself. If the gym is in the basement, it's too easy. I can keep telling myself, okay, I'll go downstairs in 5 minutes. Okay, I'll go downstairs in 5 minutes. Okay, I'll go downstairs in 5 minutes. If the gym is far away, it's too hard because then I've got to set aside another 15, 20 minutes to drive there, and then another 15, 20 minutes to get showered, and 15, 20 minutes to get there, to get back. If the gym is far enough away that it's an effort for me to go, that I can't put it off, that I have to actually do it, but not so far away that I give myself an excuse to get out, it's perfect. And with the way the garage is set up, I have to go out and then come back in, which now that it's cold is a little bit of a sacrifice. I have to put on a sweatshirt and everything. So it's just right that psychologically works for me not to avoid going.
That's perfect.
I got to play little tricks on myself to do that, to keep myself going.
I feel like that's the game, man. I'm constantly tricking myself and making deals with my brain to get myself to do things. So yeah, that's awesome. Awesome self-awareness too. So what are some of your goals right now, or any accomplishments you have had?
So my primary goal is, to stay fit. So, I mean, I look at fitness as ancillary. This, I've done CrossFit before, and the way they look at fitness as a sport, I try not to do that. I'll listen to my body and won't throw everything in it, particularly if I'm training later that night. But I do have some goals. I've been chasing a 2 times bodyweight deadlift for a long time, and I just can't get it. So that's one of the goals that I've set for myself for this year, to finally hit that. That's the primary one. My other lifts are pretty strong, but that one I've always had difficulty with. So that's probably the primary goal I've got set for myself.
That's awesome. And I like the context of how you talk about fitness too. It's really just this, other part to what you're doing. It's not the thing that you're doing, which I think that's a good way for, even if you're not into another sport or activity, I think it's just a good way to look at it. That way, I think your chances of injuring yourself are much less if you're not trying to treat fitness itself as a sport. So I think that's a great view in general.
I like to think of it, fitness isn't the word isn't solo. It's fitness for X.
Right.
Whatever your X is, that's what you should be training for.
Yeah. And that's how the word is used in other capacities. Like, is this person fit for office? Is this person fit for whatever, it's an assessment of what they can do. And I agree with that. And so what were you doing before you were training in your garage and your shed?
So, I've been training in my shed for probably about 10 years. Had a commercial gym membership, but again, the gym I had was across the street from my office. And I figured, okay, that'll be much easier to do because I'm there all day. But that's exactly the type of issue I was talking about. If I'm leaving my office now, it's even more of a hassle because I need to set aside time to get changed. I need to make sure that I bring the gym clothing there. I need to make sure that I bring my shoes. If one thing goes wrong, then I'm not going to make it. So that was sort of the moment. That was probably about 10, 15 years ago when I said, you know what, I'm not even going to try working out at a commercial gym. I'm going to work out in my shed at that point, now in my garage. As far as programming goes, I had been on a long-term kettlebell kick. So I was doing I went through the rites of passage. I've been through Simple and Sinister, some of Pavel's stuff. I've got the book back there. So I had been working basically a lot of swings, a lot of presses, a lot of Turkish get-ups, things like that. So that was my preceding program that I used before signing up for you guys.
That's great, man. That kettlebell training is, I think some people don't even know. Some people do just see it as this auxiliary thing, we can use occasionally for a kettlebell swing if it's in a part of a workout. And I don't think a lot of people have been exposed to all that you have been. That is, kettlebell training. There's a long history behind it, and also just it's very versatile. You can do a lot of stuff, and you can also see a lot of progress. What was your experience in doing primarily kettlebell training?
It was great. It added to so I got into kettlebells pretty early. One of my first jiu-jitsu instructors was Steve Maxwell, who's really big in the kettlebell scene. I like it because it's how do I want to phrase this? The strength components are very cardio based, and the cardio components are very strength based. Mm-hmm. So it's like in the middle of the Venn diagram, that it doesn't separate the training. If you're doing heavy swings, you're going to be breathing heavy, but you're probably doing more of a strength workout. If you're doing presses, which is ordinarily a strength movement, you're going to get exhausted as you go through the cycles and cycles that most of the programs have you do. And I enjoyed that. It's a very efficient way of training, but it does. Some of the movements are limited because such a cardio component to the strength. You don't get as much pure strength as you would with a barbell, and vice versa. You don't get as much pure cardio as you would with running. So that's why I like to cycle out of that type of training every once in a while.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really well put. And how do you like training in your garage? I mean, I guess I'd like to know weather-wise too, what it's like for you, where you live specifically. How's that going?
So right now it's pretty cold. But it's fine. It's not so cold that if I'm training hard, a sweatshirt won't get me through it. I have, not this year, but last year when it was much colder, I have trained in a parka, and that's fine. If you get enough work in, then all of a sudden you don't need it anymore, and you just got one less layer. It's an outdoor building. I usually leave the door open so that there's air in there. It's cold, but it makes you more efficient to get through the workout so you can get back inside to the warm house. Awesome.
All right, man. Well, let's get into some of these other questions. I'm very interested to see what your responses are to hardest workout you've ever done.
So back when I was doing CrossFit, I did a workout. There used to be, I forget what the website was, but they would post these workouts they called pain storms, which were just these long, brutal mental workouts. And I did one which was 1,000 thrusters with a 45-pound bar.
It's already 1,000 anything. You didn't even have to finish it.
It's just absolutely awful. And I regret doing it to this day. There was no purpose to it. It was something I didn't really need to do. It was nice that I got through it. You have this idea of the Meet Yourself Saturdays where you force yourself to do it, which I think is a great idea. And I guess that was a positive, but I was just wrecked for days. And I can't believe I got more of a benefit out of it than the downfall of missing the next 3-4 days of workouts because I was so sore.
Yeah, my buddy, incredibly fit, very mentally tough dude. He did 1,000 burpees for time in a workout, and it's funny. Like, this happens to me sometimes too, but he was just angry after it was over. It wasn't so much like how hard. He was just so mad at that the workout in general, and he was also out. He was taken out for like a full week after that with how broken down he was. But I've never seen someone just so angry that they did it, because he wasn't going to stop. But I think he got like 600 in. And he was like, "This is so much worse than I thought it was going to be." So when people put that 1,000 rep mark out there, I don't care what you're doing. It's in thrusters. It's got a weight component, so even worse than burpees, and it's full body. So that's just insane, man. That is a brutal workout.
It was awful. I do not recommend it.
Yeah. All right. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
So I'm obviously biased, but jiu-jitsu. And the reason for that is it's demoralizing if you're getting beat up by somebody. And because you have the ability to tap out, because you have the ability to just stop and start again, your brain plays tricks on you. You know, it tells you, okay, this is bad. And if you can tell yourself it's not as bad as it seems, I'm not dead yet, and keep training, that mental toughness really applies to other areas. But you've always got this temptation when you got, a 200-pound guy putting his knee in your sternum to say, okay, I can just tap out. I can start again. I'll be on top next time. But that's not the benefit of the training. The benefit of the training is suffering through that, recognizing that there's a level of how bad it's going to get. And if you can survive that level, maybe next time you can survive the next little level.
Yeah, that's, it took me some time. I'd say the first year I was doing it in the military, I saw tapping out as a weakness, as young men probably do. I was like, I don't want to tap out for anything, but that's how I would end up getting choked out and shoulder problems and and everything else. But I learned how to tap out after that. The next year I was doing it, and was okay with it after a certain point. But at your level, I'm sure it's even crazier. Mind game.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's. I want to caveat what I said earlier. You've got to recognize when you're caught. And it's okay to tap to pain or fear of injury, but it's tempting to tap to discomfort. And and that's where the mental capacity comes in, to recognize that this is just discomfort. This isn't going to hurt me. I'm going to be able to train tomorrow, even if I suffer through this, but it's going to be awful for the next couple minutes.
I think that's a really good, something we need to tease out there, because I think even in life, I talk about doing hard things, but then there are hard things that are just dumb. Like there's no purpose. Yeah, it might be difficult, but there's not much. It's not helping you really move forward in life or towards your goals. And then there are the other type of hard thing that if you do spend enough time on it and you keep challenging yourself, you're going to see a lot of progress. And I think that's kind of the difference you're talking about, is like, are you really doing the right? Like, are you just tapping out because you want to, and it's the easier thing to do? Or are you learning from what you're doing right now and becoming better in the process?
That's a great way to put it.
That's cool, man. I would really like to get in. I was actually planning into getting into jiu-jitsu 2020. That's what I was gonna like. I was like, you know what? I need more of I was just gonna do it like 1 or 2 nights a week, nothing serious, because there was one really close to my house, and I was like, okay, I want to check this out. And that's like right when the pandemic happened, and then they shut down. And I just haven't started back. Maybe 2021's the year, but I'd love to get more involved. It's such a fascinating sport. I would like to get more involved in it.
It's been a rough year for the sport. So Pennsylvania shut down gyms and recreational sports at the end of last year, and we just reopened again this week. And it's been very heartening to see how many people have come back immediately. So yeah, it's when jiu-jitsu is illegal, it's tough to be a jiu-jitsu instructor.
Man. I have a lot of gym owners, similar owner friends who are just in similar situations, and it's been rough. And that's why I do hope 2021 is better for everybody.
I think, knock on wood.
I mean, if you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Pull-up bar. Everything can do body weight, but it would absolutely be a pull-up bar.
Awesome. I didn't know if it was going to be a kettlebell with you, but I like pull-up bar.
That would be in the running, but I think I don't feel like I can get a workout without a pull-up bar.
That's awesome.
Interesting. So what would be something you'd want to add to your gym?
So that's a great question, because I've been looking around. I need a decent timer. Like I've been using a seconds app on my phone, and it's it's great, but it's I don't really have a place to put the phone so that I can constantly look over and see what I'm doing. I bought that. It was a Kickstarter that got a lot of play on the Facebook page that has a small portable timer. And I can't remember what it's called, but I'm looking forward to that delivery that will hopefully fill that need.
Yeah, that's those are valuable. I've never had one more than just a stopwatch on my wrist, but I always think about it. I'm always like in the middle of the workout, and I'm like, that would be way more convenient if there was a timer here.
So I used to wear a stopwatch on my like a watch that I could start and stop the timer, and I stopped doing that because I was doing so much kettlebell work.
Yeah.
Well, now you need to get a new watch. So I got out of that, and it just feels uncomfortable now that I'm to wear a watch while I'm working out.
Yeah, no, I get that. All right, man. Well, I'd love to know what your best advice for all the garage gym athletes out there listening right now.
Just keep plugging away. I mean, this is, I tell this to my students all the time, but it applies to general fitness as well. It's a marathon, not a sprint. You know, you're unless you're training for something very specific in the near future, you want to be training for life. And if you just keep plugging away, don't try to kill yourself every workout, but just recognize that I'm going to work out hard enough that I feel it today, but not so much that I can't do it again tomorrow. You'll be in this for a long time. Great
advice. Awesome, Steve. Well, I appreciate your time, man. I appreciate you for being a garage gym athlete and all the perspective you've given us here today. I think some really awesome things for a lot of us to think about, man. So I appreciate it. Thanks for your time and for being a garage gym athlete.
My pleasure. Thanks for giving me the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.